Today on Homeworthy, we're bringing you to Chicago for a look inside interior designer Mark Schubert's beautifully renovated 1920s pre-war home. When Mark first laid eyes on this space, it was a shadow of its former Art Deco glory. Previous renovations had stripped away much of its character, leaving it neglected and dated, but Mark saw the potential to breathe new life into it. With his expert eye for design, he revitalized the space and seamlessly blended the traditional architecture with his personal contemporary style. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Mark Schubert. Welcome to my home. Hi, my name is Mark Schubert. I am the founder and lead designer at Philip Harrison Interiors here in Chicago. Welcome to my home. So this building is a 1920s pre-war building in the Art Deco style. When we first saw the unit, we were really amazed about the amount of space, the open layout, but still had separations in rooms, like a formal living room and dining room, which is really nice for how we live in the space. When we saw the space, it was very much dated. A lot of that character was, completely removed in previous renovations. And we knew that if we were going to move forward with this property, that we wanted to bring all of that back into the space. For instance, we brought in all new crown molding and large baseboards, replaced a lot of the windows. We added gorgeous hardwood floors to the space after we had removed the old ones. In this room specifically, the living room, we included a herringbone hardwood floor in here. On top of that, we really wanted to just give the space the homage that it deserved and really bring back that history that was just completely removed from the years of renovation and neglect. In addition to the new herringbone floors that we added to the living room, we also included some of the original pieces of this space, as well as some new pieces as well. So for instance, behind me we have this large piece of artwork that was custom from artist Alexander Samuel. He's a digital artist, and when we reached out to him, we requested for him to create a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork that we could size at about this size, which was about 4 feet by 4 feet, for the space, because we knew that we loved the colors, the texture, and just the masculinity that this piece involved into the room. On top of that, we really wanted to play up some of the architectural details in the space. In the entire condo, we have a lot of arched niches, as you can see over here, and we really wanted to bring those curvatures into the space. So what we ended up adding to most of the rooms, but specifically into the living room, was a lot of custom furniture to really reinforce that movement and that curvature that we wanted. For instance, we have this gorgeous coffee table here that I designed, as I couldn't find a piece that was large enough for our space, but also something that was light and airy. So I worked on some designs, sketched a couple ideas up, and sent this to a couple of our fabricators here around Chicago and abroad, and we ended up deciding on this gorgeous stone top with a white oak base, which is curved but really open as we bisected it so that it stayed open and that you can actually see through it. So it kept the space very light and airy. Moving over to this area, again, reinforced the curvatures as we see in the arches with some rounded back swivel chairs that we love, along with a custom pillow from Schumacher Fabrics, which we love, and we did this nice golden fur welting around it. And then as we move into the niche, which are my favorite, these used to actually go all the way to the floor. And as much as I liked that idea, I really wanted something a little bit taller and with some presence. So we ended up building out the base and then creating this more niche moment with this wonderful wallpaper by this British company, Divine Savages, which is just, it's gorgeous, it's impactful, and we paired it with some of these found vases from one of the local shops here in Chicago. As we move around to this area, this is actually the original cast stone fireplace. It had years and years of paint just all over it. All the colors you can think of. And what we wanted to do was we wanted it to really stand out, but also modernize it. So we did this matte paint all over it. Turned out really nice after we sandblasted it and all that fun stuff, and added a matte black hearth to it to really reinforce that contemporary vibe that we were going for. It is one of my favorite pieces in the room. And I really do think that it is something that we talk about constantly, of how we were able to salvage some of the original pieces in the space. Above the fireplace, we have this wonderful metallic, it's aluminum, almost like asteroids or meteors, that we really liked, again, the texture and the play of materials that are on this. It has this relief to it and this texture that we just love, but it also brings in this just impactful vision when you walk into the space, because you see the entire fireplace moment, and is one of my favorites. On either side of the fireplace, we have these sconces from Visual Comfort and Company. We wanted something a little bit more simple because we wanted the space to really be focused on the design, the artwork, the furniture, all the other pieces. So we didn't want anything too out there. So we picked out these very simple linear sconces that I think almost resemble candlelight in a sense, which I really do like, more contemporary way. Moving down to the floor, actually, we designed this wonderful custom rug. It's a blend of wool and silk that when we were working on this space, I really wanted a little bit of a juxtaposition. As previously noted, all the curves and rounded pieces in the room, we wanted to bring in more of that linear, more structured moment, and I played with a couple design ideas and really came up with this very grid-like graphic piece in a bold teal color, which I really like because it really just amps up the entire room when you walk into it with all the different colors in the spaces. Throughout each of the spaces, but as you can see predominantly here in the living room, we did choose a palette of more of a primary color, blue, red, yellow, but we did go more towards the jewel tone versions of it. I wanted to be more impactful, more playful, and I think that really helps soften the space a lot. Whenever we work on any type of project, but as you can see here in my own home, it's a very traditional home. It's a 1920s condo, very much Art Deco, but my design style leans way more contemporary. So I do like to bridge that gap between a traditional and a contemporary space. I really love the idea of taking traditional details, big moldings, millwork, wainscoting, all of those elements, but then just interjecting into the space more contemporary or current colors, materials, even just sculptural pieces. As you can see from this table lamp here, we chose these table lamps, and we chose 4 of them for this setup because they are more sculptural in nature. They actually give a very much like 80s Art Deco vibe, which is very much back in these days, but just contemporized a little bit with it, with the shade and the base. We also do not have any ceiling lights in this room because when we were doing our renovation, we went back and forth on, do we add recessed can lights? Do we do a chandelier in the middle of the room? And the one thing that I kept thinking of is when you're lounging, you don't want light shining down on you. So we already had all of these sconces here. They were original to the room. We just changed them to new sconces, but we added the 4 table lamps to really create more of this ambient atmosphere and this very comfortable setting to create just a nice livable contemporary space. So on our coffee table, I really do enjoy a layered coffee table. It just creates that environment of warmth and comfort, specifically when you have company over. So in terms of this, I love coffee table books. I love books in general. I read constantly. And with this, all of these books were specifically selected, just like I do for any project, but for us, because they appeal to us. So for instance, here we have this book, Icons, and it's a lot of celebrity icons, and it's just one of my favorite to thumb through and just see all the different types of celebrities and these candid photographs. It's really nice. I actually will sit here sometimes, grab a book, have a coffee, maybe a glass of wine, and just thumb through them all and, really just relax in this space. With the coffee table, I do like to play up materiality on what we're putting on the coffee table. You will see a lot of bowls and things like that, but each one is completely different. We have the marble, we have the hand-blown glass, and then actually over on this side, I was at a little store here in Wicker Park and I found this vintage ashtray. I don't smoke, but I have a fondness growing up of all the vintage ashtrays. So I started collecting them, and this is actually one of my favorites. I actually just put candy in here these days, but that's a whole nother story. But moving on, we do really enjoy the color and the vibrancy that books bring to a space. So when I do design anybody's home, I really do like to interject books into the space. It's just a really nice touch. So behind me we have our entertainment center, and we selected this entertainment center just because it does have the hidden feature to hide the TV. So when we do host parties or have some friends over for a dinner, we typically aren't watching TV. We really will be maybe having a card game, talking, socializing like that. So we do like that we can shut this and it hides the television, which is usually the stickler in the room these days. On each side, we have these nice bookshelves that we styled very nicely, again, with numerous different books that we like to read, along with some sculptural objects. Again, we do love a sculpture. And then again, just mixing up different materials like the black marble, the onyx tray, some brass clocks, super whimsical, this rhinoceros, that's brass, I don't know, but I love it. Just things that when I'm out searching for clients, a lot of times you do come back with a lot of stuff for yourself. And so I try to, bring that into the space. On this side, again, more books, more things like that. But I do love these like ribbed or fluted cones with this texture on it. And then again, a lot of design books, but also, the history of rap. We grew up in the 80s and 90s when rap was really coming up. So I do love reading that, learning about the history and all those details. And then of course, a lot of art down here like Banksy and whatnot. One of my favorite artists. When someone comes over and walks into this space specifically, I really want anyone who sees this room to really get a sense of my own personal style and just like the impact a room can have without it being very overbearing. I do love a room that is completely painted the same color and very design impactful, but in this space, I really wanted it to be comfort first and then just movement, how we would use the space. It's the number one space that we are almost always ending our day in, whether we're watching TV, chit-chatting with, a family member on a Zoom call or anything like that, FaceTime. But when someone walks into this space, I really want that impactful, clean, comfortable environment for them where they don't feel like they can't step on the rug or can't step on or sit on the sofa. We all grew up with the grandparents. You had to have the vacuum lines and the carpet in the living room. You couldn't step on it. We don't live like that anymore, and I don't want that for anyone who walks into our room. I want this to be a space of casual comfort. The living room is my favorite space in our home because it is, again, that comfortable space. It's where we can start or end our day without any worries, and it really just creates that sense of serenity, which I think your home should be. This is my favorite space because it is one of our most layered spaces in the room. Whenever we talk about design, fashion, anything, it's all about the layering and how that all works in conjunction with each other to create an atmosphere or the essence. And in this room, how we've layered all of the elements together just really creates this comfortable sensation where you really don't want to leave this space ever. Well, now I want to take you through to our dining room and our kitchen, but first I want to walk you through our gallery hallway. Follow me this way. As we move through into our gallery hallway, when we first saw the home, we knew that this 22-foot long, barrel vaulted hallway was going to be a gallery. We like how it bridges the front living space to the back living space, and we really wanted it to be impactful with truly one-of-a-kind pieces of artwork. So on this side, we actually have a triptych going all the way down this side of the hallway by an artist called Nick Thom. He actually has limited print releases on top of full-scale paintings and canvases, but for this specific, we wanted multiples in the hallway. So we actually found these three by him. We reached out to him and was able to get all three custom sized to what we needed for our space. And then we had them framed by a local framer here in Chicago. Most of our artwork is framed by one of our local framers here in Chicago. On this side of the hallway, we have this screen print from 1937. There's actually two of them, and these actually came from our old apartment. I'm a big art collector. I've always been in love with art ever since I was a kid. We have probably more art stacked away in storage units and closets than I would like to admit. I need more wall space. But these are really nice because they are vintage. And we had them just simple framed, and they actually worked out perfectly when we were designing the space to be set over each of these two benches we have for our guests to sit on when they're arriving and departing. Moving down the hallway, we actually custom designed this credenza unit as we needed a little bit more storage. We do have a dog, Leo, and it is really a great drop zone when we walk into the space when we're coming in from a night out or leaving in the morning. This bowl is usually full of our keys and chapstick and who knows what else. It's just a catch-all, but it really is our big storage unit for the hallway. It includes all of our dog paraphernalia, all of his coats, jackets, and then we actually added this curved arched mirror to really ground the whole moment here, along with this bronze table lamp, again by Visual Comfort, to really set the tone and create just a nice ambience within the space itself. On the floor, we actually ended up using carpet tiles. This is from a company called Floor, F-L-O-R, and we use them quite regularly in a lot of our projects. As anyone knows in Chicago, spaces can be awkward. And we wanted an impactful runner that we could design ourselves and lay out ourselves. So throughout the entire main hallway, we actually chose this pattern, which is almost like a charcoal anthracite with a little bit of a gold fleck into it, just to add movement down the hallway. And it just continues and it keeps going all the way down. And then as we walk into what we would call our secondary hallway over here, we have this, again, wonderful wallpaper that is, again, from Divine Savages. This one is called Crane Fonda. I had to have it when I heard the name. And we paired it with, again, these really gorgeous sconces from Visual Comfort because it had that Art Deco feeling with the fluted glass. We really enjoyed that. On this side of the hallway, we have this one-of-a-kind piece of artwork from one of our art vendors here in Chicago that is very impactful, again, very colorful. I am not afraid of color, but I really wanted something with movement and fluidity within the actual piece. As you can see from the hallway we just walked through, it was the main inspiration for the design of our entire home. All of the main public areas in the home, so the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the hallway, we wanted to create a gallery feel because we really wanted the artwork, the furnishings, the decor to really stand out in the home. So we really just embraced that truly and created this gallery wall and this whole hallway that was the basis and the starting point for the rest of the design. And that's how we just continued adding to and developing the design of the space. When we moved in, we had this texture throughout a lot of the spaces. And we ended up having it either skim coated or removed during the renovation process. But in the hallway, we left it mainly because we liked that it was a texture. Otherwise, the whole hallway would be very, very clean and just smooth. And in that regard, we didn't really care for that. We wanted some sort of detail. And again, it was almost an homage to the original texture that would have been throughout the entire unit. So we left it just in the hallway here as a nice backdrop to all the pieces of artwork. So in our kitchen, it was completely different when we moved in. There was actually no island. Everything was still on this wall, and the opposite wall was just a blank wall. There was actually a little like breakfast bar here that we ended up removing. So when we saw the condo, we knew that we had to gut the kitchen. It was 20, 25 years old, falling apart. And so we knew that we were gonna have to put some time and money into making the kitchen that we wanted. As we moved through the design of the kitchen and how we wanted a layout to be, we kept all of the main appliances and plumbing exactly where they were, shifting, ever so slightly. But we wanted to add a nice big island to just, enforce movement and separation into the space. So in college, I worked in restaurants, bartender, in the kitchen, server, all that fun stuff. And I wanted my kitchen to resemble how a restaurant kitchen ran. So everything on this side of the island is the work zone, and everything on that side, I wanted it to be more of the serving area. Hence why we have these gorgeous glass cabinets with all of our dinnerware and glassware and stemware in them. So whenever we have a dinner party, which I love to cook, I'll be on this side, my partner Michael will be on that side, and I will hand him things off and he will plate, and then we take them to our guests into our dining room. So during the renovation, this room and our dining room were probably two of the biggest changes. These spaces were pretty much gutted down to the studs. We added all new recessed can lights, all new electrical throughout this space because we knew that we needed more light. Originally there was just one track fixture in the middle and it really didn't do the space justice. So as we designed the space, which we have these gorgeous brass pendants along with all the brass accents on all of the hardware with this knurled texture, we knew that that would bring in a bit of a sparkle or a glam, as you may say. But then we paired it with darker countertops. These are matte quartz by Cambria in a black color that we really just loved. And then we actually took that same finish up to our backsplash. Very simple elongated subway tile, but we did it again in a matte black finish because we didn't want the reflections from the lights. We really wanted it to absorb the light in the space. Hence why we chose navy-ish slate blue color for our cabinets along with a dark smoke color is what I think it's called for our island. As we move on to this side, we did add interior cabinet lights to all of these cabinets just because we really wanted this to be impactful when you walked into the space. I would like to say we use all these glasses regularly, but that is not true. Typically when we have parties, we have our annual holiday party, birthday parties, things like that. This will be almost completely empty by the end of the night, but it's really nice to grab and go and make a cocktail for a friend or so. As we move down, we have, various little canisters. We have our cutting board, but again, books. I love my books and I love to find recipes from books. Any of these are great. We used Graze a lot during the pandemic to make bread and charcuterie boards and all that fun stuff. So it was really nice to have that in the space. So during our renovation, as we all know, budget is key. So we really knew that we wanted these gorgeous countertops in our design, but we wanted to save some money in other places. So again, with the backsplash tile, this was a very cost-effective option that had high impact. It is actually a mimic to look like a hand-glazed, hand-formed tile, but it's actually mass-produced. Just little tricks like that help you reduce your overall costs for your project to really try to keep you on budget for the duration of the project. Another tip that we usually like to say is don't think about your lighting last. So always think about what type of lighting you are using, what it's for, and where it's going. So as you can see, we have the under cabinet lights, which will shine directly onto our surfaces. We then have the interior cabinet lights, which are more of an ambiance type feature, just to showcase what is in those cabinets. The pendant lights to help give light to our seating area at the island. But then the biggest thing in a kitchen or workspace is the recessed lights. We again used Visual Comfort's recessed lights for our space, and what we liked about these is that they're completely adjustable, so we can point them in any direction to help bring light into the space where it's not just shining straight down. So most of these lights actually are shining on the walls and the cabinets rather than straight down. So we get a bounce reflection, which really helps create a brighter space, even though our design is very dark in here. So during the renovation process, we had this space just off of the kitchen and connected to the dining room that we decided to use as a bar. Now, it does have a wine fridge in here, which is wonderful for, the evenings when I want to have a glass of wine, but it also is where we spend most of our time in the morning making an espresso and just prepping for the day. We had these custom shelves made by a furniture manufacturer here in Chicago in the southwest suburbs called Rustic Elements. It is a ash wood with a dark stain on it. And then we pair that again with a wallpaper from Divine Savages that is cats with martini glasses, because I do like a little whimsy and playful moment here and there. And then on top of that, we just have all of our coffee accoutrements with that, the different types of mugs, espresso cups, things like that. And again, as I like to reinforce over and over again, lots of different books that I thumb through all the time for either a cocktail recipe or just a recipe in general. It's just something that I really like to do, and this space probably sees some of the most action whenever we have guests over. As we move into the dining room, this space was, again, part of the larger renovation of the kitchen. Most of the other units use this as a secondary living room, but we really like the idea of a formal dining room because we do have friends over and like to host dinner parties and family events. So as we designed the space, we actually had to do a custom table because the space is a little bit more narrow than we would have liked. So again, the same company that did our shelves on our bar area, Rustic Elements, did this table for us. Again, ash wood with this, dark charcoal stain with a cerused finish on it. And we paired it with these Italian chairs in this camel orange color, again, to give a little bit more of a, Art Deco mid-century feel to it. They do have this pleated texture, which I really do like. That, texture I'm key with here. Behind me, we have these two pieces of artwork that we were able to customize to bring in some of the colors into the space. So we did add some of the orange and then this pinkish purple tone to the artwork in general, because again, in here we did a custom rug that took some of these colors and bridged the gaps together throughout. This rug is wool and silk, so it does have a little bit of sheen to it, and we do like that it has an abstract pattern in it. Moving your eye up, we have this chandelier, very linear, again from Visual Comfort and Company. This is called the Nira, and it's one of my favorite pieces because, again, it's very sculptural, it's abstract, it's a talking point when people come into our space. It's almost like waves or airflow, as you can see the movement throughout with each of the different blades, but it's so light and airy that it doesn't feel heavy within the space as if it was a solid chandelier. Moving over to the end of the dining room, we actually found this credenza and had a company, it's vintage, had a company come out and they refinished it for us, polished up the hardware, and we picked the color again. As you can see, we have a lot of these colorful moments throughout, starting with the living room with those primary colors, and we kind of tied it all together throughout each of the public spaces of our home. This is a 1956 credenza. It's about 8 feet long, so it does fill up the space. Wonderful storage. Love that we could reuse something vintage. And then we paired it with these two lamps from Visual Comfort. They're by the Hable sisters. I love those two. And again, sculptural. It adds tactility to the space because they are hand formed. So we really do like playing with those types of features in any design that we work on. Color, texture, pattern, it's key for us to have a successful design. When we have friends over for whether it be a dinner party or a small group gathering, we like to have a formality to our dinner parties or our events, but also a very casual feel. So when we host parties, we will do the whole tablescape, really make this look gorgeous. We have, again, these wonderful little lamps from Visual Comfort, these portables, love them. They're my new favorite thing because they're battery powered, rechargeable. They last for like 3 days or something like that. So it really gives that hospitality feel. My background when I first started interior design was in the hospitality sector of architecture and design. So I was working on hotels and restaurants. And from there, I really do like to bring that into any residential project that I work on, is those little bits of elevated feel that you get from staying at a hotel or going to a high-end restaurant. It's just one of those ways to create an elevated or sophisticated experience at home. Design has always been a big part of my life from when I was a child to where I am today. I remember growing up and playing in the kitchen when I was 4 or 5 and stacking, soup cans to make towers and taking cereal boxes and making other, architectural sculptures out of them and pretending that they were, homes or buildings. So it's always been in my background. I didn't realize it until many, many years later that what I did as a child really influenced where I am today. It really makes more sense now that you think back about it. When decorating my own home, it's a love-hate relationship because you're always going to be very nitpicky and fine detailing every single thing that you do and choose. So it does take time, but with any design project, we really want to establish a timeline and then from there really see what we can accomplish. I work on projects that go on for years where we're trying to find that specific piece of artwork or sculpture or piece of stone, and it can take time to find that. And I think with anybody working on their own home, it's going to be a fluid, open conversation constantly. You're always tweaking something, you're always going to change something, but the key is to be happy with what you are selecting. Don't just go out and buy something because you need to fill a space. Make sure there's a point to every single thing that you purchase and select. Now that you've seen my kitchen and my dining room, I'd love to show you my primary bedroom, so follow me this way. Welcome to my primary bedroom. In this space, when we were working on the design, the size of the room didn't change at all, but we did want to interject a lot of our own personality into this space. And from the beginning, we knew that we wanted a darker room. We really enjoy blackout window coverings, dark colors. We really want to embrace that sleep. So we really dove headfirst into dark colors. So in the space, we painted every single ceiling wall trim, everything the same green color in a couple different sheens. So like the walls are all matte, the ceiling's flat, of course, but then all the trim is a satin. So it has a little bit of a reflective, a little personality as you move through the space, but it's all the same color. We paired that with this black and white wallpaper by Emma Hayes because it has movement to it, but it didn't interject with the color of the space. We wanted to complement and add some brightness a little bit to the space. So we had this abstract black and white moment that we really, really enjoyed, and then actually paired that with these custom sliding closet doors that again are black with this frosted matte glass to help bring in some of this lightness in a dark space. With that, we also selected this leather, very low bed. It's like a charcoal leather, really liked it. We again wanted something masculine, something warm, something that really represented us and a restful place. And then we paired that with a lot of these brass tones, as you can see in the table lamps from Hudson Valley Lighting, to the hardware, the furniture, and then this almost like amber or honey colored bedding, which also paired into some other design elements like the window coverings for the windows. We grounded the space with this navy blue, just striated, very simple wool rug because we didn't want anything too impactful because we wanted it to be more grounding. With that, we paired it again with 2 more lamps on this dresser from Hudson Valley Lighting. And then this gorgeous piece of furniture here is this chair. It's where I sit most days, putting on my shoes, taking off my shoes, just getting ready. It's the pillow chair at the end of the night. It's just nice because it ties back to the wallpaper, so it has a very similar pattern to it where we kind of bring one element from one side of the room to the other side of the room. We added this full-length mirror behind the chair to not only reflect to make the room bigger, but also it is the main dressing mirror in the space. So it does have this height to it that really adds depth when you're looking this way from the bed. Behind me again, we have the drapery, and it very much is the same material or same color as our bedding because again, we wanted to tie those elements together. So the color transfers from high to low, the wallpaper high to the chair low, the blue from the bed to the floor and the carpet, really just pairing all that together in a very subtle way, created this harmonious and uniform space that we really enjoy sleeping in at night. So my company, Philip Harrison Interiors, we started back in 2017, 2018, and it really was the opportunity for myself to go out on my own, to really create my own spaces for my clients. Previously, I was working for a hospitality firm doing hotels, restaurants, which I loved, but I missed the opportunity with residential clients. There's this piece of working with residential clients that you don't really ever get with hospitality clients. Sometimes with restaurants, if it's a smaller restaurant, you're very personable with the owners, the chef, things like that. But when it comes to hotels, it's a little bit different. So I did miss the one-on-one with a residential client. So when I started Philip Harrison, my focus was to bring that hospitality design element to the residential sector and really bridge that gap. I feel like it's always been the opposite. We're trying to bring residential to hospitality, but people really like the idea of hospitality to residential. So from there, this room as an example, it almost reminds me of a very nice high-end hotel room because of all these layered elements and how every single piece works together seamlessly without it being overbearing, but still very impactful. And that's what we like to bring to all of our projects at Philip Harrison. We really want to make sure that we understand what the client wants, and first and foremost, we're always listening to them. In any consultation, initial meetings, we are listening first and foremost and then repeating it back to them because we want to understand what are their goals, what do they want to accomplish, what is their timeline, their budget, all of that. We want to hear them. So that is how we focus on our clients. When working with our residential clients, sometimes you are acting as the liaison between the couple. One might want to paint the room purple and the other one might want to paint it green. We're there to facilitate a conversation and to really bridge the gap as to why each of them are selecting or pushing on these items or opportunities so hard. So we do act like a marriage counselor in that, regard. It's honestly one of the best parts of the job is that we're trying to make sure that these two separate individuals are creating a space that is a fully representational environment for each of them. So there's parts of them in each of the space, which is why we do say it is a collaborative experience when you work with us. We, again, are listening and we want to hear you and then take that information and create that space that is exactly equal parts of each person. The word home, to me, is a place of comfort. It's a place of relaxation. It's serenity. You want to come home to a space that is a representation of you to where you can just chill out for the rest of the time you're here. You don't want to worry about anything. You don't want to, think about what you have to do the next day. It's really about you and your life. So to create a space that is just for you, I think is key to being in a home. And that word home is a full representation of that. Well, Homeworthy, it's been a pleasure today, but I gotta kick you out. See you later.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.